Hey, how's it going? It's the Challenger Coach out of Mobalytics Isles here to take you through our low-elo tier list update and Q&A video, so let's get started. Before we start this update, we have just launched our partner program. The program is designed for any creators, YouTubers, streamers of all sizes to help turn your hobby and passion into a full career. You'll have access to mentors, assets, giveaways, and a whole community to be a part of. To celebrate, we are giving away a Blue Yeti microphone to anyone who applies to the program. I really hope they're not giving away mine though. We're also doing a giveaway. Anyone can enter for a Tobii Eye Tracker, RP, and Mobalytics Premium. All the links are down below. Starting off in the top lane, our updated S-tier roster will be Soraka, Yorick, Set, and Singed. Outside of Yorick, this is truly the perfect S-tier. Terrible joke aside, our changes for this patch include actually having Soraka in S-tier, as she is, okay, I'm not even joking when I say this time, but when I looked over at her stats when writing this portion, I couldn't help laughing because she's got a 57% win rate and a 10% play rate all ranks. It's just so beautiful to see all the people saying that she sucked in low elo in the YouTube comments proven wrong. Anyway, the other changes include Kled and Ornn dropping out of S tier to A tier as they're just struggling to deal with the S tier trio matchup wise, so until they get nerfed a bit, they'll likely stay in A tier. Joining them from B tier, rising up from A tier, we have Garen. Now, fair warning, he will be placed at the bottom of A tier as he too struggles significantly versus the Elite 4 of top lane. In particular versus Set and Soraka, he's just doomed. Outside of that though, his matchups can go pretty even and he hard wins into popular champions like Renekton, Riven, Aurelia, or Jax, at least at lower levels, and I personally would recommend him as a go-to top laner till around gold. It's because you'll notice you'll just start to struggle at Plat Plus, and don't even get me started about trying him in Diamond Plus. Being a Garen main at that level in this meta is just pure masochism. Even my girl Eve might be turned off by that level of torture. It's not really that it can't be done, but just like, why when champions like Set exist? Speaking of Set though, he is in fact a champion who took a 3% nerf last patch after, his WCD took a big hit, which lands him now in S tier. He went from a 56% win rate to a 53% win rate and is one of the most popular top laners in the current meta. Not only that, but his win rate is being suppressed by extremely poor itemization choices where people just needlessly build Black Cleaver on him over Trinity Force, which is simply the better option, which on average will give you a 1 to 2% increase in win rate just by doing this simple trick every single game and building the correct item. So if you play said top lane, please build Trinity Force over Black Cleaver in most of your games. Top laners are just gonna hate me for giving away this trick for free, just follow that one easy step. It always astounds me how proper itemization can just have such a drastic impact on your win rate. Like LS, I'm gonna blame pro players for this one though, as they are consistently bad role models for proper itemization, as Black Cleaver is the most common choice for them on Set, despite making no logical sense or not even having any data to back it up. Okay, I'm done ranting, but remember to pick up Set as one of the strongest meta champions at the moment, and you'll be pretty set to win any melee matchups. In the jungle, our S-tier roster will be Warwick, Master Yeezus, Trundle, Set, and Shaco. In terms of changes, we move Set back into S-tier, as in the jungle, it's his best performing role at lower levels of play, and it's the role where the nerfs impacted him the least. Similarly, in the high-elo list, Olaf is going to move down from A-tier to B-tier, as he's just being pushed out of the meta by the heavy increase in peel champions as well as the rise of Trundle, while Kindred is just doing terribly at lower levels of play in the current state of the jungle, as it's just not suiting her, so we took her out as she's only got a 47% win rate. As for some positive changes, we got Dragon Lady Shyvana going up from B tier to A tier, as the buffs to her kit a couple patches ago combined with the buffs to farming junglers last patch allowed her to perform a lot better. She is also more versatile than in the past. We all know about her wizard build, but her AD setup is making a comeback, as well as it's perfectly paired with enchanters like Sona or Soraka who can keep her up in the front line to let her do some real DPS. The build itself is nothing new, it's just Conqueror press the attack with Bloodrazor Blue Smite and then Frozen Mallet. You really wouldn't expect this ancient style of Shyvana to return out of nowhere, but with everyone playing melee champions or short-range ADC, she does just fine, as her issue was being kited, and that doesn't really matter as much. Not to mention, if you've got Conqueror plus Spear Visage plus an enchanter like Nami, Raka, or Sona, it's almost impossible to die. It's super fun, so try it out. But even without them, you can just default to one-shotting squishy champs with your wizard style, making her really versatile. Next up, we got the opposite of versatile champion, and that is Master Yi. Thing is, he doesn't actually care about it. He's been doing the same thing for years, and the slight jungle XP buffs actually helped him out this patch. This is a champion that since the beginning of the season has just destroyed low elo, and his play rate and win rate are only increasing since then due to bug fixes going in his favor, or that the meta is also going towards a Master Yi heaven. We got Taric becoming more and more popular and shining bright. We got enchanters in general rising up again to buff him up, and best of all, people are just playing them melee champions for him to destroy shred through, this is likely the perfect time to pick up Master Yeezy, as he is even performing well in Plat Plus without a duo Q. And because of that, he would be my #1 choice for people to carry with on this patch, which is saying a lot when champions like Zed and Warwick are still so dominant. Fair warning though, Master Yi does have Yasuo syndrome. When you get fed, you will feel like a god, and that you can 1v5. And unlike Yasuo though, sometimes you'll actually be able to, but at least wait up for your Taric or Lulu to come around to make it a little easier. 2v5 is good enough. Believe me, you'll still win that game. For our starting S tier roster in mid lane, we have Diana, Fizz, Swain, and Mordekaiser. We actually don't have any changes to mid lane this patch, as you know, my genius self was perfectly able to predict the upcoming meta, so instead I'll just talk about some of my favorite picks for this patch. First up, we've got Ahri, who does have some extra perks of having a lot of skin options if you main her, but outside of that, I wanted to bring attention to a new setup that is popular on mages and High-ELO recently, but can be used on Ahri as well to make her even stronger. She's had this small issue recently where if you go the Glacial Augment build with Hextech DLP, she lacks damage, and if you go Electrocute with Ludens, she just lacks reliability and utility, and if you don't Snowball, you're pretty useless. So instead, you're just actually going to rush Hextech DLP into Oblivion Orb into Deathcap along with Electrocute. I've personally been using this setup and find it to be so much stronger, as it gives you the early power you need to snowball while also having the GLP for utility, allowing you to easily land charms even on 90 ping like I have. Don't worry, you can thank me later. I've made Ahri an even easier champion to both play and get carried on. Well, that is, as long as you can learn to use the active properly, you'll be just fine. Next up, my #1 pick for this patch is gonna have to be Fizz. I was torn between him or Diana, but Fizz is just banned way less, and to be honest, there is barely a difference between the two. They are both top tier mid laners who in low elo are just capable of one-shotting almost any mid champion, with little counterplay or even mechanical skill needed. The reason I'm gonna suggest Fizz over Diana though, as my go-to pick, is that his ban rate is significantly lower, so you'll just get to play him way more often, which I feel is very reasonable advantage, as Diana's ban rate is 30%, while Fizz's is only 9%. The other advantage I like about Fizz over Diana, just in general, is how much safer he is to ganks. Diana, you get ganked and she just tries to waddle away and hopes you can tank through it, or she tries to 1v2 the gank, which, you know, you're totally able to do on her, but sometimes you can't. But Fizz, he's got his troll pull, his E making him really hard to dive or gank, to the point where junglers just don't even bother trying, giving him an easier time in a 1v1, as junglers are just less likely to show up to his lane compared to Diana. You can't get wrong with either one this patch, but I'd still go with Fizz if I had to choose. Moving to bot lane, our starting S tier roster will be Jinx, Misfortune, Senna, Vayne, and Yasuo. Caitlyn hasn't been doing as well lately due to getting outclassed by other champions like MF for Senna, at least in Loyalist, and we moved her down to A tier from S. Ezreal, on the other hand, will be moving from B tier to A tier on the Loyal list for the first time this season, as the combination of consistent buffs along with people learning to actually build Trinity Force on him has made him a real champion again. Not really happy about that, but you know what, we'll deal. But I am aware that there is a debate about him currently with his keystone choices, where some other challenger coaches have released videos on lethal tempo Ezreal, not gonna name any names, so I looked into this myself, and I looked through 4 different stat sites and our internal data at every single bracket of play, with proper sample size of course, and found that not a single time did it outperform Conqueror, not even once, and it's by far the more popular choice. So I'm not sure where the theory for this setup is based off of, but it just isn't performing better than a standard Conqueror setup, which is, again, way more popular to begin with, so do me the favor of not getting baited into lethal tempo Ezreal if you do choose to pick him up. Next up, had to highlight the most noob-friendly marksman in the game, Misfortune. She's currently just so wildly popular with a 20% play rate. But in my opinion, not popular enough, because she's just the easiest champion to play, is almost big ban status and competitive, so you don't even have to worry about not doing well with her as you climb, kind of like Garen, for example, and every single ADC besides her that is strong is getting nerfed, making her indirectly better over time. This is a champion that should be at a 50% play rate at least. It's not often in League of Legends history where the easiest champion or role is also the strongest across every bracket of play, so I would really take advantage of this if you're a bot lane player or if you just get off-rolled to bot lane. In the support role, our starting S tier roster will be Janna, Soraka, Sona, Nami, and Taric. We don't have too many changes this time around to support outside of sending Xerath to the Shadow Realm. Well, and also sending Lux to join him until her changes on 10.4. Lux support is currently receiving some buffs to her QCD at later ranks while losing 30 base damage on W, but the amount shielded will now be evenly distributed between going outwards and inwards, making it a way more reliable ability to use, because let's be real, your teammates dodge that ability way better than they do enemy skill shots. shots. These changes made me believe that once they go through, Lux support will be viable again, even able to take aftershock post nerfs to it, as the lower CD is even better for Lux as she's able to deal with all-in lanes on a more consistent basis. Not that I ever really liked having Lux support on my team, so I was happy to see her fall out of the meta, but these changes, if they go through, will likely allow her to be back on the tier list. Just in time for another enchanter support to potentially hit the meta, I'm going to suggest picking up Blitzcrank as a solid counterpick to the influx of enchanters. Blitz has always been good versus the likes of Janna, Sona, Nami, Soraka, Lulu, or Lux support, and with their increase in popularity post-buffs, Blitzcrank is just going to be super happy about this. His ult has that new effect that people forget about where it can instantly break a shield, allowing him to easily one rotation enchanters if he does manage to land a hook on them. My quick and easy tip for never missing hook for new Blitzcrank players is to just not throw it out. Hold it for as long as possible. Most of the time the enemy will just juke enough for you to either just walk up and punch them, or they just juke themselves into a corner or giving you a better angle, lining up with things like walls or the tower, so happy hunting. Moving on down to the Q&A portion, our first YouTube question will be from Beta Ruler, who asked, how is Singed even S tier top lane XD ? His win rate is doing that good despite his laning phase being pretty lousy and falling off late game ? Yes, actually, his win rate is in fact doing that good with a 54% win rate and a 3% pick rate, making him an extremely strong pick in low elo. As for his laning phase, I wouldn't actually say it's that bad. Due to his ability to proxy, he can bypass some of his harder matchups, and at least in low elo, he has only 3 losing matchups, which include Kayle, Mundo, and Soraka. When looking at some of the more popular champions in the meta though, Riven, Renekton, Ornn, Aatrox, Mordekaiser, and ya boy Sett, he has extremely hard winning matchups into them at this level of play, making him a fairly safe blind pick too. Now, as far as your comment about him falling off late game, I feel like it used to be that way, and it was worse back in the day before Conqueror and building him mostly AP became the meta. Now that he's an actual threat to the enemy backline, I wouldn't say he falls off late game anymore compared to champions like Renekton or Pantheon. He's actually pretty solid now and has great utility due to his grounded effect in late game teamfights. Our next question comes from Sebastian Alexander, who asked, what about Eve jungle? I would love to hear your thoughts. And actually, this is a question I get a lot in the comments, or just me personally, because, you know, I am an Eve main. And as an Eve main, at least when I jungle, I can confidently say that she is trash at the moment. That's it, we can just move on to the next question. Oh, I guess you probably are wondering why I said that, so I'll explain it a little bit. The jungle right now is just all about early ganking and skirmishing, since even with the slight XP buffs to the jungle, you still end up really behind in levels. Eve is just not capable of consistently ganking pre-6 or skirmishing without her ultimate, making her just too slow paced for the current version of the jungle. Unfortunately, she's also unable to gain the levels that she needs in the mid game to power through her poor early game so that she can actually one-shot and 1v1 people, and on top of that, her neutral objective game isn't amazing either, giving her not a lot of options to actually snowball a game. This is why you see her at a 48% win rate. Now, understand, people still talk about Evelynn all the time, and that's due to the trauma that she can cause when she gets fed randomly. It's not really about Evelynn though, it's more so about human psychology to remember the bad more than the good, hence people overestimating her impact on the current meta. They just remember that time she went 21-1 or whatever, and then they forget the time where she did that and lost anyways. Our next YouTube question comes from Nindai, who said, you recommend Vayne for low elo? TF is that? Crying laughing face emoji, crying laughing face emoji, crying laughing face emoji. To answer that, yup, we definitely do. She holds around a 52% win rate with one of the highest ADC play rates at 14%, and she historically actually, despite being considered a mechanical champion, does better in low elo. The reason for this is that her biggest weakness is how bad her laning phase is, which gets abused hard in high elo as she just has 0 lane priority outside of good matchups for her like Ezreal or Sivir. With low elo having way higher game times on average, she's just more free to scale, and let's not kid ourselves about how hard Vayne can be when she hits 3 items. That champ pretty much just plays itself. You just need to work on not getting drunk off your own power and inting, which is understandably hard sometimes. But come on, people. At that point in time, she doesn't even have a skill shot to land. She can just attack, move, and kill everything. The other thing I want to mention about Vayne currently is she is somewhat easier to play due to the increase in enchanters who peel for her, while most people are picking melee heavy comps, which include champions like Ornn or Sett, which Vayne just murders, making her very suited for low elo meta at the moment. That means that our first Instagram question will be from It's Me Kubo_BTX, and he asked, where is Leblanc? I got you on this one, Kubo. I got her exact location for you. Leblanc, she's sitting pretty at a 47% win rate for your average player, but Leblanc, she's an A tier for High-ELO, and her priority in pro play is actually pretty high at the moment, and many top tier mid laners are just styling with her in solo queue. So wait, Adam, is it just that the skill disparity between low level Leblancs and pro level Leblancs being that big? Short answer, yeah, it is. Because that champion does god awful in this teamfight style meta, meaning she has about a 10-minute window to snowball the laning phase, and then another 10-minute window to use that lead to put her team in a position to completely close out the game within 5 minutes. It's not so much that people don't have the mechanics of low elo to play LeBlanc early game, as sometimes they do, but the real story here is just how good you need to be to consistently pressure the game to close it out super early without making any mistakes. Because if you throw a lead even slightly and the game ends up getting to a 5v5 teamfight stage in low elo, the LeBlanc, it will do absolutely nothing because she don't have the teamfighting ability or the farming to do more than an Annie or Malzahar. I'm just sorry, it's the way the game works. With that being said, our last question will be from Mr. Storyteller, who asked, what about Talia on bot lane? Isn't she good right now? Love me some Talia bot lane, and yes, totally agree that she is good right now. It does do worse at lower levels of play though, and she is more of a champion designed to snowball and end games in the mid game, as she will get outscaled by standard enchanter plus ADC combos that are popular at lower levels of play, which will happen more often with longer average game times. Along with her terribly low play rate, this is the reason we don't have her on the low elo list. As not only does she hold an okay win rate of 51%, her play rate is only 0.3%, making her not that worthy to mention over other more consistent champions that do not require you to learn a completely new class of champion. Although I will mention she is a candidate to show up on the High-ELO tier list, so let me know if you guys actually want to see more mage bot laners in the tier list in the comment section below. That's it, so thank you for watching our low elo tier list update and Q&A video, but be sure to check out our other content on this channel or our website at mobalytics.gg, especially for our LOR stuff. That stuff's really good. As always, I'm Adam Moriarty Isles, and hopefully I'll see you watching my stream if I can ever figure out a proper time slot for it.